Hello, this is Oscar Subarats, and welcome to my show, Ask, Don't Tell. The best salespeople care about the people they're selling to, and they show it. This week, we're flipping the script because sometimes the best way to sell is to help people, just help people. But why not help people protect themselves? So, my guest today is Danny Karon, a top tier class attorney and the man behind a soon to be released Your Lovable Lawyer. He's actually on a mission to make legal literacy as common as brushing your teeth. So we're going to get into that. I heard that somewhere. Whether it's spotting a shady contract clause or understanding your rights before you sign, just really giving you the information for you to have legal wellness. What a great approach. So let's get into this. Danny, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a real pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Awesome. So, we were chatting a little bit at the beginning before the show. That's kind of cheating, but it's because now I've got my cheat sheet. But tell me why. So when I think legal wellness, I'm thinking, like, for example, when I work out, right, there's the right way to work out, there's the wrong way to work out, there's the right way to eat, there's the wrong way to eat. Tell me where legal wellness comes from. Um, why, what is it that our viewers have to know of how legal wellness can help them?
I've been a consumer class action lawyer for 34 years. That means helping the little guy, helping folks like us when you're screwed over by, say, your credit card company or your auto finance company or your internet service provider. Folks like us don't stand a fighting chance unless somebody like a class action lawyer bands a bunch of other folks' claims together and tries to even the scales against the big monster companies who won't otherwise pay attention to you. So in my 34 years of helping the little guy, I observed what I call a societal bias against access to justice, where people who deserve it the most tend to get it the least. And that means regular folks don't know they have legal issues. Or if they do, they don't know how to resolve them. Or if they know how to resolve them, don't know who to contact, or don't know how to pay for a lawyer, or how to understand a lawyer. I mean, for crying out loud, we've got our own language, legalese, which makes you want to jump off a bridge. I mean, all these obstacles exist as it concerns people being safe and sound and well in their legal space. So what I wanted to do was to bring legal accessibility and aptitude directly to folks rather than having them fight through the legal system, fight with lawyers, pay for lawyers. This is content lawyers don't want you to know because they want to get paid for it. I want to bring it right to folks because going through lawyers is expensive and it takes forever. So what I did after observing all this, I took a look at the daytime, call it TV and internet landscape, and I observed a couple of things. One was that there's a whole lot of emotional wellness content out there, like Dr. Phil preaching how to be safe and sound in your mind and body. There's also a lot of financial wellness content out there, like, for instance, Jim Cramer, Susie Orman talking about how to set up a 529 for your kids or a 401k for yourself. But where it comes to that third essential wellness bucket, I'd submit it's legal. There's nothing out there, which, by the way, when it tips, it spills into the other two because you freak out and you go broke. All that's out there are these exploitative TV courtroom shows that show up after disaster has struck, and they prey on people's misery. I wanted to slide the dial back and be more preventative than responsive or reactive. Kind of like if you go to the doctor for a physical to keep from getting sick, consider this your legal physical. Things you need to know to keep from getting legally sick. That's what my website is about. That's what my book is about. That's what my whole brand is about. That's what my mission and purpose are about.
So really what I'm kind of hearing is this is kind of about myths, lack of information that there is in the world. Really, in a lot of industries, lack of information, myths, only knowing what you know is very costly, right? And you end up making poor decisions in life, whether it be legal decisions, financial decisions, estate planning decisions, by the lack of information. And sometimes it's the 1% that know what the rest of us don't know. So what I'm kind of seeing is, like, you're kind of on a mission to give that information to, like you said, all of us, not just those that can afford it. Is that kind of what that mission, deep down inside is?
Yes, it is, because legal wellness, legal aptitude and accessibility and awareness, they shouldn't be a privilege for the top 1%. They should be a right that everybody enjoys. And you need it brought to you often to know what you're missing, because you're absolutely right. Often it's not what you know, but it's what you don't know. And obviously you don't know it. And in that manner, I've had my kind of brand or mission described as kind of the iPod of wellness, which is to say that you did perfectly well without an iPod your whole life. But once you got one, boy, aren't you glad you did? It opened up a whole world of opportunities and brought you into a lot of things that you were missing. And that's what I'm trying to do. Because, for instance, let's take an example. Online defamation. We all have phones. All our kids have phones and laptops. And it is really, really easy to say too much, say the wrong thing, piss off the wrong person, and get sued, especially these days. And they're not nickel and dime lawsuits. I mean, look at the lawsuits of late. The voting machines case, the Fox News case with Gretchen Carlson, all these things are massive dollar, massive stakes undertakings for somebody going too far online. And the most notable, accessible, identifiable case of them all is Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. She shouldn't have said what she did. She might have believed what she did, but the way she did it was wrong. She was found guilty of defamation, a civil claim under Virginia law. Had she had an ounce of wellness, she could have avoided a whole pound of pain, because she didn't know what she couldn't and shouldn't do under Virginia defamation law. She stepped over the line. Johnny Depp sued her, ended up costing her millions and millions of dollars. That is a perfect example of something nobody has any aptitude for or awareness of. Online defamation. What can't my kids say? What shouldn't I say when I'm pissed off at someone on Instagram? Where's the line? These are important issues.
So you kind of have a saying that legal wellness is kind of like, it isn't something that you should sometimes do, or sometimes, well, when I have a problem, I will seek help. When I have a problem, I'll seek an attorney. So usually in the legal world, it's too late. You're right. So you actually kind of call it something like brushing your teeth. I don't know where I did some research and I found that somewhere. So I don't know if that's even you, but is that true? Is that a term that you use, and why do you use that?
Well, I don't know that I use that term so much as I agree with your theme, which is that you need to be proactive. You can be reactive and be like those courtroom shows and try to sort out the mess after someone's done something to you, or you can know what the issues are, pre-plan, and be ahead of the curve. And a perfect example of that would be, say, my chapter from the book on wills and trusts. There's no greater gift you can leave to your family, your survivors, than to have a will and a trust, because if you don't, things are a mess. And I channel a lot of these lessons through myself and things that have happened to me or friends or clients, because everything is real. It's accessible. It will happen to you because it happened to me. And there are ways to avoid it and to learn from my bad fortune and the way I handle things and got my way out of things. And you can get your way out of things too, and or prevent them altogether with a little bit of preventative medicine. And you don't have to have this victim mentality when things happen to you, like a lot of folks do. They think, oh, you know what? They don't even think that this is how it's got to be. Visa overcharged me. I guess that's how it's got to be. No, it doesn't. There are a lot of ways to get your shot at justice and get it well.
Okay, good. So now we've uncovered why people need help in having just legal information that's usually not available unless you pay, but it's out there, right? And we don't know where it is to find it. But now it's clear from what you're saying that all of us at some point are going to need help. And the more proactive we are to get that help or that information, the better off we will be prepared to handle that situation. In other words, if the police come knocking at your door and you've read enough John Grisham books and you've read enough stories, maybe what kind of legal rights you should have before you start talking, right? So,
absolutely right.
Right. So here's my question to you. You're writing a book, you're creating you have a site called Legal Wellness. I always like answering the question, why Danny Karon, why what he's doing? Because ultimately, this information may be available in different parts. It might be available, through AI, through ChatGPT, through Google, through different websites, through paid sites like LegalZoom. Like, why is what you're doing different than what's already out there? And why should they kind of come to you for that information? Is it because it's different, or is it because it's easier? I'm interested in saying why Danny Karon, why what he's doing. Now I'm challenging you here now, but that's what Ask and Don't Tell is all about.
I would submit that it's not available to begin with. If you want
Okay.
to AI it, what do I do in an auto accident? God
Mhm.
bless you. Go ahead. You'll have some unaccountable list of things to do derived from who the heck knows where. Or you could go through somebody who's trustworthy, who's got credentials and credibility. Why is that me? Because not only have I practiced consumer law for 34 years, I teach consumer law. I started out teaching complex litigation class actions at Columbia Law School. And when the commute was a little bit much from Cleveland to New York every week, I knew I needed something closer to home. That's where I was living at the time. So I got some other teaching jobs, and I still have them. I teach at the University of Michigan Law School, taught there this past school year, taught complex lit and class actions. And I teach at the Ohio State University Moritz College of Law, all top law schools. In addition to all that, the American Bar Association, which is the leading
Right.
trade group for lawyers nationwide, has a program called the National Institute on Class Actions. It's the biggest, boldest, most well-regarded class action program for judges, lawyers, and professors in the country. And I chaired it for 13 years. And I turned it from something kind of pro forma and uninspired and bland and vanilla into, with panel discussions, just folks sitting in front of a table with text dense PowerPoints that they largely ignored, into something bold and brash and memorable and enduring and fun and exciting. And I would write 3-act plays and do mock oral arguments and mock mediations and talk shows and game shows with music and video, all these sorts of things and themes to entertain and bring these consumer themes to life and make them resonate with people and make them turn them into a message they can take with them into the world to help their clients. Well, now I'm bypassing these lawyers and delivering all these things and the law students directly to consumers, directly to people,
Okay.
because they're the ones who ultimately deserve this information, this content. It's ultimately intended for them. Why not give it to them? That's my
Okay.
motivation. And that's why I'm different in this regard than anything
So,
that's not
so,
even out there.
so, so, general information, really what I kind of heard there is this is, you can go to different sources and get, you can even like chat GDP, like what happens if I'm in a car accident? But what you're saying is because you've been, and I'll get into this a little bit, because you've been in the game, like, what those, what those situations are that, and I'm going to ask you like in a second to give me an example, those situations are that could really be life impacting to someone if they're faced with that. But what you're saying is these situations are not your common situations sometimes, and you have to know, how to navigate those in order to be able to help people. So what I'm kind of hearing from you is in your mediums and in your sites and in your book, you're trying to go beyond just general information. Like you're trying to give information, like you said, that most people would have to hire a lawyer and pay them to do that. So let's get in that. Like, give me an example of, again, I told you I was going to challenge you. Give me an example, but you're a pro. You're a pro. Give me an example of something like that. Like, it's very simple. I was in a car wreck, right? But something much deeper, much bigger, where it's like, I can't just get the answers, but I know that I'm going to have to get an attorney, but I'm not going to get an attorney because I'm scared. Maybe I don't have the money. So I can go to you or your site or your book or whatever it may be, and I can at least start to navigate that process. What would be an example of
That
that?
is precisely the issue that my whole brand is designed to address. So here's the
Awesome.
example you're looking for. And this happened to me. This isn't a client. This isn't a friend. This is me. And it was scary as hell. This is a couple of years ago. We had just moved to Florida, where I am right now. And my wife was driving our car. She took a left-hand turn. Someone hit her, totaled her car, totaled the other car. She wasn't injured. The other two folks were injured. When you add up the auto damage, which is like 50 per car, let's say, some injuries got to be good for 200. Cost of lawyers when the case gets up and running, another, like, what do you have to, 300, maybe call another couple hundred. There's about $500,000 at stake right there, real quick, in the blink of an eye.
Mm-hmm.
I picked up my phone. I got on my insurance company's app to make a claim. It wouldn't, it indicated that a different car than the one she was driving was the insured vehicle. I couldn't make sense of it. So I call up the insurance company. We talk back and forth. A couple of days later, I get a letter denying coverage. They're not going to cover anything. That's a $500,000 self-pay swing if it's my wife's fault. Tell me I wasn't freaking out. That case, you're not going to get a lawyer to handle it because you cannot take a third or get paid a contingency fee of provide coverage. It's a total loser on the contingent fee side. And to pay $500 an hour, I'm upside down even at $500,000 before you know it. So I'm going to get bled. Now I've got the aptitude to know what to do, but other folks wouldn't. So I put down on paper what I did. The first thing I did, believe it or not, was I read my insurance contract. Oh my God, really? You read your? Yes, I did. They're actually understandable modestly, but I dug into it and I saw that under the contract that related to the earlier car, not the current car, my wife was a covered insured. Secondly, I dug into the facts, and that required digging up the policies, the declaration pages, the email trails, the cell phone records, the leasing documents, the mileage odometer statement, all this stuff to piece together the story, which was that we called the agent 2 days before picking up the car to say, bind us over. We want to switch cars, provide us coverage on the new vehicle. We don't want to drive for even 1 second without it. And we kept getting bills. We kept paying them. The agent never made the switch. So I put all of this into an 8-page single-spaced letter supported by 13 exhibits, sent it through the insurance company's portal, and I waited. And I waited and I waited, and nothing happened. And I was about to turn to preparing a federal complaint to file in the Northern District of Ohio, federal court, when I got a call from the insurance company, from a claims adjuster. He said 2 things. One is he said, I'm so sorry for what we put you through. I read your letter. And 2, we're going to provide full coverage. That is something that people would never have thought they had the right or chance or possibility of doing unless they saw somebody else do it. And it's not some AI answer. I put the letter in the book. And everybody's got a template for what they can do and pieces they can take from it. If ever, God forbid, they're burdened with an insurer who denies them coverage. Scary as stuff. But that's an example.
That's powerful. And what you're ultimately describing, again, I mentioned earlier, myths, lack of information, but we add one more. I mean, it's experience. I mean, you ultimately did something that 99% of the people on the planet would have no idea to do just because of your training and your background and, where you teach and so you're able to transfer value of, those, and we all have cars, and actually it's funny because people will come to my house and I'll joke around with them. I'll say, hey, did you sign the waiver? I mean, they've got kids and it's like, what? It's like, you just don't even know. And I don't really do that, by the way, if you come to my house, but you know what I'm talking about, right? Like, well, people don't know what they don't know unless someone tells them, someone like you tells them that.
And when you talk about waivers, there's a chapter on waivers and they are everywhere, from a waiver hidden in a health club contract to a beware of dog sign to a stay back mud flap on a semi. All these things purport to be waivers. And some don't hold you to their terms. Some do. It depends on the judge, depends on the jurisdiction. But what can you take from that? You can take from that they're in what you sign. You might want to be mindful, because if there's a waiver in there, and there's an example in the book about a guy who was renting a bike in New York City, and there was a waiver, he cracked his head, he wasn't able to really recover at all, and he wasn't wearing a helmet. If there's a waiver in there and you're going to be self-pay for if something happens, you know what? Maybe you want to just wear the helmet, because you're going to be on the receiving end of a whole lot of aggravation if something bad happens. It's just ways to adjust your lifestyle to account for what the law is and is given you. And people don't understand any of this. And when it happens, they still don't understand because they have a victim mentality that says, hey, listen, it's how it's got to be. Neither of those assumptions are true. I challenge both of them, and you should too.
Right. So I've been at a couple, conventions, conferences where there's speakers, and you'll have a high profile attorney that comes in and speaks about, particularly, to high income individuals or businesses or entrepreneurs. And a lot of the times, by the time you walk out of there, you're like, wow, I really can't do anything without being some way, liable, or there's always a legal risk. If my kid gets into the car, if my kid lets, somebody else drive the car, if I let the babysitter take my kid in the car, right? Like, there's so many you can lose everything like that, right? And where it starts getting confusing is when attorneys, because I've been there, start talking about, okay, well, in order to secure this, we're going to do this trust and this trust and this trust, and there's a gazillion different types of trust and different ways to do it, and so that's where I think it starts getting really complicated for the normal person, right? It's like, okay, I know that I need to protect myself, but if I go to an attorney, he's just going to make it so complicated. No, honestly, a lot of times he's just gonna make it so complicated, because at the end of the day, the more trust I create, the more wills I create, the more this I create. Like, I am ultimately recurring revenue, and that recurring revenue has to. It's like the market. Like, you have to move the market. Well, you have to move the client. So that's the world that you came from, and that's the world you're trying to help people to avoid. Tell me a little bit about what about how that world that you came from helped you become who you are today, or what you're trying to do with this.
Well, lawyers are like mechanics in large part. You don't know what they're doing under the hood. They just send you a bill and you expect
Mm-hmm.
that, this is probably fair and reasonable because, they say they did something necessary and essential for me. And you could ignore these needs. You could ignore the
Mm-hmm.
needs, say, for will and a trust, if that is even know to ignore it, and think that your problem is just going to kind of go away, but it's not. So ignorance of the law is no excuse for not being suitably prepared for what life is going to bring you and for how to react to things and how to avoid things. And I mean, the reason I got into this way of thinking is because I saw things taking too long. I saw people suffering too much. I saw them getting too little. I saw a lot of people having their cases turned down because there's just no way a lawyer could handle it for them. Like I've suggested, like my auto insurance case, no lawyer, a $500,000 insurance claim. It's not even a tweener. It's not even in between. It's just a 9K because no lawyer is going to take it. Again, some lawyers not going to take it on contingency, and they're also not going to say, you're going to pay by the hour. You're going to be unhappy soon. We're going to get pissed off at each other. It's just, they're not going to take it. So again, I wanted to raise folks' awareness, make the law accessible to them, make it approachable, make it something that they could actually use themselves. Like I think I said earlier, a DIY law degree, really. You don't have to go to law school to have an aptitude for all this stuff. You don't have to go to law school to know to read your insurance contract to see what a definition of an insured is. It's in a paragraph. You parrot it back to the insurance company. They say, oh, yeah, I guess you are an insured under this contract, even though you're driving the other car. Don't have a victim mentality. Another example. A friend of mine, he went into the dentist to get a crown on his tooth. He came home, he paid $2,400 for it, came home, it fell off. He calls me up. He says, what am I supposed to do? I said, well, first of all, you call the dentist and you complain to the dentist. And if you don't get anywhere, you stop payment on the visa. Oh my God, I don't want to stop payment. What if the dentist sues me or gets pissed off or whatever? I said, let me tell you, he's not going to sue you because the stakes are too high. He does not want to get adverse to a patient because that could create the possibility of a medical malpractice claim over very little stakes, small stakes. And med mal claims are the thing that terrify doctors the most. Believe me, you have leverage. When you reframe it this way, wouldn't you agree? He said, you know what? That's a good point. So he went in. The dentist gave him a hard time. He said he was going to stop payment. The dentist didn't want that, didn't want some trouble, didn't want probably the prospect of a med mal claim, which had to be circling around in his mind as things heated up, because they always do. And he ended up giving my friend his money back. He, an attempt, went to another dentist, got it done for $800 and saved a bunch of money in the process precisely because he wouldn't take it sitting down. He did not have a victim mentality. He knew because of me, he had rights, and he moved forward on them.
Right. Well, information is power. And so, if you have that information, it's like anything. It's kind of like the whole ask, don't tell thing. Like, we live in this tell world where people are always talking, but if you simply start asking questions and you learn a lot more about every type of industry and about people, you actually have the information to get through life a little bit better. And what you're suggesting is kind of the same thing with legal wellness. You almost can't live without it. You can pretend that it's not there, but at some point, we all, whether it's a tooth or whether it's a $500 million carp thing or whether it's, later on in life, you're going to need that. So let's dig into the book for a second. So the book is called, it's called Your Lovable Lawyer. And so you mentioned something that was really cool. You mentioned that in that book, you actually just like put in the letter and the templates of a case that you actually went through that actually helped you. And I love that because, for example, in my book, In Closing Intelligence, one of the things people love the most is I actually put scripts in there. Like, how do you overcome I got to talk about it with my wife. I literally scripted out how to get past that objection. And people love that. And so people love it when you don't just talk theory, when you actually put something in there that they can apply. So what are some other things in Your Lovable Lawyer like that somebody's going to just be able to take home like immediately? Like, oh, wow, like I need this and I'm going to use it today.
I'll give you the best one in the auto accidents chapter, because it's not a matter of whether, it's a matter of when. We're all an accident victim, whether it be our cause or somebody hit us. Putting that aside, we're all going to be in one. What do you do to best protect yourself in the aftermath? We'll have a 10-point best practices checklist. And I say at the end in a parenthetical, I say, and it wouldn't hurt to take a picture of this page with your phone and keep it handy for when this happens to you. You'll know what to do on the scene. Those sorts of things.
That is awesome.
I've got other checklists to complement the letters. And the letters, I try to keep the letters general enough to be, kind of generally applicable or modifiable to folks' situations. And there's a chapter on the airlines. Everybody gets screwed around by the airlines. My theory is that getting screwed by the airlines is an opportunity to wind up ahead, because they'll always give you something so long as you make a sensible, respectful ask. I have a bunch of templates in there about what to do under different situations and where to go and what numbers to call, and the passenger bill of rights from the Department of Aviation, or Department of Transportation, and what remedies they provide us as travelers that often your gate agents don't know. Because if you don't ask for the right thing, there's no reason to expect you're going to get it. And if you have that list in tow, you're going to know precisely what to ask for, and you probably will get it. Why? Because it's federal law, and nobody knows it.
That's awesome. So you just totally opened up my mind here, because I think you're going to really like what I'm about to say, because it just kind of speaks to the reason, because this goes beyond the law. This goes beyond, this is life, right? And so I'm going to get on my soapbox for about a minute here. All right. And then after I get out of my soapbox, I want you to start thinking.
I'll sit back. Okay.
Yeah. I want you to start thinking, what do you want people to know, from this, of what do they need to take, action with today? Like what did you want them to know? And how do they need to, what's the action that they need to take literally after listening to what you've said and what I said, because they're going to be ready to take some sort of action. So just hold on for a second. So really, like when we're doing this show, Ask, Don't Tell, like most of you don't really know what my level of questioning is. And those of you that have been listening to the show really know that I'm kind of going through a process, right? I'm really asking, why do people need help? And so I'm asking Darren, like, why do people need help? And so he's answered that question beautifully, because you're all going to be in this situation at some time, in some situation. And then, why his solution, right? Why not ChatGPT? Why not Google? Why, if you're listening to the show, you can see the progress of the questions that I'm asking. He answered it beautifully, because the information that I provide, and he just answered that. He really did. And I'm going to tell you where he did. But the information that I provide is just simply not out there. So you can go through all these mediums, but in the book, I'm going to give you stuff that's really just not out there. And then, why Danny Karon, right? Like I literally answered that, and he answered it beautifully. He gave us a little bit of his resume and told you how powerful he is. And then in a second, he's going to answer the question, why today? So if you're listening to the show, you realize that when you're in a sales situation, you're always trying to really dig into those, what I call the 4 whys. And it just gives you so much information to find the value of where it is, of, the value that the other person is giving you, or the value that you have to give. So here's what I heard, that incredible value that people are going to be ready to take action. Danny, ultimately, when I'm speaking and teaching people about sales, and they read my book, Closing Intelligence, and they're Ask, Don't Tell, I tell them, this is not about sales. Just like you're saying, this is not about the law. This is about life, period. I mean, in your book, you're helping people with airlines, how to handle airlines, maybe how to handle a hotel situation, how to handle, with your car insurance, how to handle. I mean, I'm sure there's so many things in there that it isn't just. So if you're listening to this, remember, this isn't about the law. It's about how to get through life. And if we were in a room of people and I said, "Who wants to learn about the law?" No one would raise their hand. But if I asked the question, "Who in this room wants to just get better at life and be able to handle those things in life to help you succeed in those times where things get complicated?" Every single hand would go up. And that's what Danny's doing. And I absolutely love that, because in that book, gosh, I want to read it. I want to learn how to, how to talk better to the airline. So there's the value. I mean, there's the benefit 100%. So you're always asking yourself the question, and ask, don't tell. And when you're talking to a client, or you're in a sales situation, hey, what is the benefit here? And the benefit that I see in this, Danny, is you're helping people succeed in life. Just like I help people get yes in life, you're helping them succeed in life. And I love it. So I go back to you now. What is it that you want people to take from this and start doing today? Whether it's go to your site, whether it's read your book, whether it's connect with you, but they have to start doing something today, because this is not something that's going to go away. This is either you're going to have the information, you're not, and you're either going to succeed or you're not. So I will leave my soapbox and go back to you.
I love your remark about how this really goes to helping folks with their lives rather than simply as it concerns the law, because the last chapter of my book is, I think I called it something like "What Legal Wellness Tells Us About Life." And
Yes.
It really is about, like I've said, the victim mentality, about standing up for yourself, making a case, making a statement, doing what's right, protecting yourself and your family, your money, your psyche, your time, all these sorts of things. It's just that I attack that fundamental universal concern and right through the law, because that's my space. And the law affects all of us. It's like the air. I mean, you can't avoid it. So I'm trying to do it in a free, fun, and friendly way, which is not what you see out there with lawyers. Are you kidding? No way. No way. So I'm that guy. And I know what I'm doing. So, for instance, when I do a lot of TV, and when I do TV news hits, they ask me how I want them to introduce me. And I say, introduce me as a law professor, because everybody's a lawyer, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And every lawyer's got a big mouth. You don't want to hear another lawyer popping off. You need credibility. You need somebody who's been in there, who wants to give what they know and what they've learned for reasons other than making money. And I don't make anything to speak of being a law professor. I just do it for the love of the game, because it's important to give back. I got an email literally yesterday from one of my students last semester asking me for job help. And I was thrilled to help. I emailed her back immediately. I still haven't heard back from her. I find that to be a little off-putting, but I was on top of it, because I think it's really essential to help in whatever regard and capacity you can. Mine happened to be, again, the law. So what would my call to action be as it concerns our listeners today? If you want to learn more about legal wellness, how to protect yourself, how to be safe and sound, and how to anticipate issues, how to respond to issues that maybe you're in the middle of that you don't even recognize as something that can be addressed because you've never addressed it before, Google Your Lovable Lawyer. Go to my website, go to my YouTube page, go to my Instagram page, my TikTok page, and subscribe. You will see tons of content out there. I put it up as often as I can. It's evergreen content, meaning eternal, enduring stuff like auto accidents, like how to handle traffic court, like, what to do, in a landlord-tenant relationship, things that everyone's going to bump up against. And there's some more topical stuff. Some questions that channel through what's going on today, like with politics and with free speech and with people fighting all the time, and where the actual legal lines are and where the legal arguments set up. Because people out there have a problem of just popping off and giving opinions without the knowledge or the expertise to make a worthwhile one. And I try to make responsible ones. So if you want to benefit from all of that content, it is all free, fun, and friendly. Go for it. I'd love to have you. And of course, you're absolutely welcome to buy the book. It's for sale on Amazon and Barnes & Noble right now. Search for Your Lovable Lawyer. Makes a great gift. Drops October 21st. And it's got a lot of good stuff in it. I really worked my tail off to bring eternal, enduring, and essential messages to all you guys.
Well, I can't wait to read it. I can't wait to go on the site. I can't wait to, because I love learning. I love learning and having the information the power to, know enough. It's like Santa Claus. Santa Claus knows everything because he's probably read everything, right? I love being able to say, hey, I have enough information to get through this. So ignorance is not an excuse.
And you know what else, Oscar? Speaking of Santa Claus, he's got the credibility to keep eyes on, to get folks' attention because he's Santa Claus.
Right.
I don't have that reputation. So I have to fall back and lean into entertaining. Job one in everything I'm doing to promote this brand is to entertain. You watch the videos, they're fun and they're entertaining. They're costumes, they're green screen, they're B-roll, they're all this fun stuff to keep your eyes on in a 3-second world. When I'm having trouble competing with folks on TikTok, I mean, we know the crap that's out there, and I would watch them before watching myself half the time. It's got to be entertaining. And once I got you hooked, then you're going to learn something. That's my one.
And why not? Why not have something fun to actually create some sort of value in people's lives? Because we talked about your 2.0 in your life, I'm 2.0 in your life. And ultimately, yes, we do this because, at some point, whether it's through a speaking wig or through a consulting gig, we somehow get paid significant revenue for what we do. But ultimately, we do the things that we do because we have the experience to share value in other people's lives, to impact their lives so that they can live a better life. And I clearly see that with you. And I have deep respect for that.
People say, I really admire your the risk you take or your courage or whatever to do this stuff. I'm thinking courage, it doesn't affect me one way or the other. I just think it's fun. So for instance, speaking of Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, when that case was wending its way through, I did a series of videos to explain the case, the verdict, the appeal, all this sort of stuff. And the middle one was the most fun. Well, they were all really, really fun. One of them I dressed up as Captain Jack Sparrow with
all right. We got people that now immediately want to leave this show and go straight to watching this stuff.
Edward Scissorhands. I had the whole thing I'm holding the jury verdict form up with the blades because it's just something fun to keep folks interested in the topic. So that's the kind of attention to detail and commitment to cause you're going to get if you commit to following my essential legal wellness message.
And you've got the hair to do it. You've got the hair to do this.
We both got our hair. You
got the hair to do it.
Complain about that.
All right. So that's it for everyone for this episode of Ask, Don't Tell. Yes, please take some sort of action today. You're going to forget everything we talked about in 2 days, 1 day, 5 days, 10 days, and your life's going to go back to normal. So you don't want to be normal. You want to be extraordinary. You want to have the information that 1% has. Well, then listen and take some sort of action today. Go find out more about legal wellness. Go find out more about Danny Karon. Go to Amazon. Go to Barnes & Noble. Pick up the book. Do your pre-order. Do whatever you need to do. But here's the thing. I always say take some sort of action today. I will see you next time on the show. You want to know more about Ask, Don't Tell? Go to OscarSubarats.com. Pick up my book, ClosingIntelligence.com. And I will see you next time where we dig deep. We find out. And that's what all about Ask, Don't Tell is. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Oscar. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.